been southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on the midnight train. Going too fast now, think I'll slow down, standing in the pouring rain.
All right, let's hope that this goes without any hiccups. What's going on, guys? Tristan and Tony back with another episode of the One Hell of a Life Outdoor Podcast, coming with a unique podcast from Arkansas in a pretty cool duck room with Mr. Hugh Dean Weatherford, which is Cade's granddaddy, and we're excited to pick his brain on some duck hunting today, and we'll have Cade on too to share some funny stories between the two of them. And yeah, what's going on, Dad?
It's a pretty special day, man. I think we had a great morning. Hugh Dean let us come out and do some hunting out here, and we all had a blast. We got the boys from Alabama in town. My nephew are you my nephew? Yeah, that's what you are. I just always forget because I remember him as a baby, not this grown man, but no, we're super excited, and we just want, I think we have a lot of guests on, and very rarely do we have the opportunity to get somebody that's got so much wisdom like this guy.
Right.
I think if I had a dime for every time Kate has told me a story about his granddad, I'd be a millionaire. So you got a lot to live up to, Dane. Thank you for coming on the show with us.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, appreciate
But
it.
I'm going to pop off. I'm going to let Kate in here and let these guys get after it.
Yeah, sounds good. Get on over here, Cade. He's like, oh, God. Cade's a frequent... Yep. How about now? Good?
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
Yep. Cade's a frequent flyer on the One Hell of a Life Outdoor Podcast.
Sit down, Tucker.
Tucker's here too.
But
Let me let the dog on there.
yeah, that'd be nice. No, but we had a pretty good little fun spinny shoot this morning, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, that was a good time. We got to hunt down here at a field you guys called the 20, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was where I guess you took Cade and he shot his first two ducks, right?
Probably.
It was.
Now, yeah, I think, did you say one of them was banded or something?
Yeah. Man, this is way better than talking over the phone. I can hear myself. It way better.
Mm-hmm.
Way better.
Yeah, this is the first time we haven't had you call in via... Usually you're in a tractor or on a...
Yeah, I'm usually
or...
doing something while I'm doing it. They usually call me over the phone, and I'm doing it over the phone, and they record it over the phone. It's never on the microphone like this. No, that 20-acre field. He ain't no. I'd like to know how many ducks he's killed out of there. I myself have killed quite a few out of there, but there ain't no telling how many he has killed. I mean, it is that little field down there. When the unique thing about that little spot down there is when them ducks work that field, you got the road on one side and then the tree line on the other side, and then there's a pit out in the middle. If you're sitting in the pit, or even on the back levee right there where we sat this morning, they work it. The unique thing about it is they're like, even on days they don't finish, you can usually shoot them on a pass because it's just such a small field. They don't want to get close to that highway. They don't want to get close to them ditches. They don't want to get close to trees. So you can kind of get right there on that little loop. And even if you don't decoy them, you can just shoot them swinging. I mean, that's the neat thing about that little field.
Yeah, no, I remember you saying before we ever hunted it, I think last year might have been the first time or the year before, that you've always loved that spot because those ducks just dump in and they come. You see them coming from behind you, and then they just come over the trees and
that whole part of that farm over there it's a lot different than anywhere else. Growing up, I was duck hunting and you didn't know how exactly. I didn't know no better. Like them ducks do it magically back there, like the way they work in, like. Behind my dad's house on that big field back there, you sit on that wood line and you got a backwards wind. Now, my number one rule of thumb is I always like to hunt with wind in my back, except there. That's the only place on the planet I like it backwards because I'll pitch over them trees and they just come down right in front of you. I mean, and you can ask him. They just, every shot when it's backwards like that, is, I mean, it's 15, 20 yards. I mean, it pushes them right up against the trees right there.
Now, how long have you guys had this property in the family?
That piece down there has been in for about 25 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bought that. The rest of the farm has been in there since 1948, but that piece was 320 acres in that part. Got a chance to buy that, so they bought it, and
Oh, nice.
that's down there where that's at, that ditch that goes through there. Before that ditch was dug, that was just a natural little creek went down through there. It used to be timbered all along there.
Okay.
And it's just been a natural flyway for the ducks. You know, I don't know if they've remembered it all these years or not, but it's changed a lot, but they still like that part of the world right there.
Oh, nice.
So
Now, did you, Cade may have told me this before, but when you were going back to like your guiding days, did you ever guide on any of your family property, or how'd that work?
most of it, I guided not on the family property, because most of the time I'd have it leased out, and then I was guiding at buyers' farms out here in the Sky Ranch right there, and then just let the hunters do what they want to do. But for several years I day hunted it some,
Okay.
you know, right there. But we've ever since I started farming in 1977, and since from the first year that I had it, we've been duck hunting on it. You know, had a group from St. Louis that hunted on it for about 20 years. Probably They got too old to hunt and decided it's too far down there. They live at midnight sometimes and drive down here in time to go duck hunting.
I know how that goes.
Yeah.
We're crazy like that.
Yeah, but you know, when you get older, it kind of changes your attitude on that deal. But now we've been at it for a pretty good while.
Yeah, I guess so. Just like so how old were you when you first started duck hunting?
You know, I didn't start duck hunting till I was probably 12 or 13, somewhere along there. My daddy didn't duck hunt, and my grandpa didn't duck hunt, so we just kind of got, you know, where I was raised down south of Wheatley. We had, and there wasn't as much rice down there as it was up in this country, but we had to get along a fence road, and the water would be backed up there, and we didn't have any decoys or anything. We just, when we killed a duck, we'd go out there and stake him up, you know, put a stick in his mouth and
Just hold his
head up out of the water, and that's how we did it then. Just kind of got on it. But when I moved up here, it was a little bit different story. When I got grown, you thought you had to have a duck call to start with, and I remember the first one I got was a PS oat, you know, about $2 or something like that. But then they came out with a wood one. It was a mallard tone, I believe, and I've got one of them in my gun safe over there that I bought. But just and it wasn't anybody that taught you how to blow. You just kind of tried to listen to the duck and make the same sound he did sometimes. And some of them sound pretty bad.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. But
Well, no, it's interesting, and I mean, you know this way more than we do, but just he's got like a population of just local mallards that live behind the house, you know, and he listens to them, and he sends me all these different sounds all the time, and they don't all sound the same.
No, they sound different. Some of those old hens really sound terrible. I mean, just have a terrible. You think, well, man, that don't sound like that sounds like somebody on the duck call that can't blow, but.
Yeah, so next time I suck at blowing the duck call, Cade, you can just write it off as a bad hen.
Yeah. You can just sit around and listen to them, and they all sound different. You know, some of them really sound good, and others sound terrible, just like you're talking about. So, whatever you do, the duck call, I don't think it really scares them.
No.
It's just it's not as much how you sound, it's when you blow. You know, you don't, when they're right there on you, you don't try to blow them out of the sky. Just kind of feed them in there. But that's how it is.
Yeah, because it's more knowing when and how to use it versus just being a good duck call.
This time of year, when the ducks have been blowed at all year, a lot of times the less calling that you do, the better. Just to get them, blow at them enough to get them to look. then you shut up.
Yeah.
Let them come in. Right there.
Yeah, it's real familiar, ain't it, guys?
Yeah, I just looked at you because that's kind of what he was saying earlier today. He's like, you see how those kind of fell in and we didn't have to call much? Maybe we should keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, you can look the ducks when you blow at them, you can tell that when they hear you, if they interested, you better be quiet for a little
Well,
bit.
if they're coming, keep whatever you're doing at that time, and they're coming towards you. Keep doing that. When they quit coming towards you, change it. That's what a lot of people don't understand. There's a big difference in knowing how to blow a duck call and then calling a duck. There's a totally different deal. If you're doing one thing and he's coming and he keeps coming, why change that? He likes that. He's coming towards you. Don't stop. Keep doing that until he's close enough to shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. You can go back and watch all them videos that y'all filmed of me, and I'm doing this. Like, if they like it, I'm not changing nothing. I'm all the way to us.
Yeah, especially on the teal call. You hammer them all
Yeah,
in.
the teal. If you just blow the fire out of it, they'll come in there.
So Delta Thunder, custom calls, or can you kind of walk us down, the story, like how did that come about and how long you been doing that?
Well, I've been doing it for probably, 12 years now. I retired from farming, and I got to watching those old boys on down in Louisiana.
Duck Commander.
Yeah.
Duck Commander. Got to watch them. I said, man, if them guys can make a duck call, I believe I can too. So I've looked on the internet and watched a couple of guys blow. You got a book and look. So I bought a lay and just kind of started playing with it. And the first day that my son and I were out here in the shop and getting the lay and stuff set up, and actually the first day that I turned the duck call, my wife was in the house and we were out here for several hours. We came in and it had been thundering all afternoon, trying to rain and thunder. And we said, well, we're going to make duck calls. We need to come up with a name for the business. She said, it should have something to do with thunder because it's been thundering all afternoon. So I said, well, let's call it, I didn't come up with Delta. I said Dixie Thunder. I said, no, that doesn't sound too good. So we finally come up, well, we live in the Delta. So we just called it Delta Thunder. And at that time, didn't anybody have that name? So I didn't register anything because I didn't think that they were, I wasn't going into the duck calls and business. I was just going into it to have something to do. And I've sold quite a few of them, but it's mostly been by word of mouth, and people call me, and I had some down at Max, and I had some down at Brinkley at Jeans, and
oh, nice.
and I sold, I don't know, 300-400 probably.
Oh, wow.
Right there, but I kind of slacked off the last year or so. I kind of got sick last summer, and I didn't get to make any so far. I'm at the hunting season runs into. You hadn't got time to make duck calls when hunting season comes
right.
in, so you got to wait till that's over with. So
you gotta get your deer hunting out of the way, and then you're tired from deer hunting, so you got to take your little break. Sleep in a few days, and then turkey season's there, and you got to wait till after that. You got to wait till there's absolutely nothing to do.
Yeah,
like June probably, huh?
Yeah. In the summertime it gets too hot out here in the shot, and wintertime it's too cold, and hunting season's in. So I just I'm not doing it to make a living. I'm just doing it because I like enjoying it, and the reason I started making them out of Bodock fence posts, the old man at Clarendon. His name was Alvin Taylor. He made tailor-made duck calls for years. He's dead now. And he was the first one I knew that come out with acrylic duck calls.
Okay.
And everybody was blowing wood calls. And if you got it very much, when you go out and blow a wood call in the morning, it gets wet and starts sticking, and you can't get it apart to clean it. And those acrylic ones, you can just break them apart and wipe them off and stick them back in there and go. So he told me, he knew I lived at Hunter, and he said, and he knew that there was a lot of these fence posts along this railroad track. It used to be if I'd bring him some of those Bodock fence posts, he would make me a duck call. Well, I never did, and he died, passed away, and so I got to looking. I said, well, I'm gonna see if I can find some of them. And within about a mile of here, I found a bunch of them, and they were in the ground about 3 foot.
Huh.
And I had to take a handyman jack and jack them out of the ground to get them out of there because they were really in there. But that's how I got started on it. And I've made just a few out of other exotic woods because everybody wanted some, this, that, and other, and I make it. But I was selling 10 of those Bodock ones for every one of those other ones I sold. So I just quit fooling with the other and just strictly stayed with Bodock. But those fence posts have been in the ground for about 120 years. This railroad come through here before the turn of the century, and this country was all virgin hardwood timber. And when they come through here and cut that right away for that railroad, it made a lot of grass green and, come up, and the cows and horses, this was all open range. Okay. They would come to and when the train finally started running after the turn of the century, they were killing horses and cows left and right, and so they decided it would be cheaper to build a fence down both sides and put gates at the crossing because there wasn't that many crossings. So they did that, and that's how I kind of got to going on and that when the people learned about where they come from, you just wasn't buying a piece of wood somewhere. It had history of the railroad, and I still got some of the posts and do that. But
do you think is there any benefit to the actual wood? I would imagine probably the way Bodock sounds, it'd probably hold up for longer, right?
It doesn't have a windy tone.
Oh, really?
Like a acrylic call. You see these kids going down there at Max or even D&W
Mondo,
up there,
man, acrylic,
and they get that whiny. A lot of them get them cut downs now, and they sound terrible. They sound terrible. They sound grr, 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 grr. It sounds like Google what a spoonbill sounds like. That's what it sounds like. I'm not kidding you. It sounds like a spoonbill call.
That's a piece of the wood right there, and that's 120 years old, and it's hard as a rock. I mean, when you start sawing through that, I've burned up I don't know how many saw blades cutting right there, but that's just a fence post that I've cut into. I cut them in about 5-inch pieces.
That feels so much different than any other wood I've ever held before.
It's heavy.
No, you could drive a nail with it.
It's almost like a rock. It's so dense.
It's almost, it feels about petrified. And when you can take that thing, one of those posts, and take a good sharp axe and hit it with an axe, and it'll just kind of skin it. It doesn't, and that's why they blasted so long. They used to burn the railroad right away off all the time. It wouldn't burn those posts. It just kind of, you can see where they've got scorched on the outside some, but that's the reason. And I don't know how long they'll last. Unless you break one of them. And when I've finished them, I've been polishing them off and drop one on the floor, just bounce. You don't even skin it. You don't have to do anything to it. But
does more damage to the floor.
But it's got the wood. All the wooden calls have got a little different sound to them than acrylic has.
They're unique. They're unique. Each one of them.
And when I make them, I don't. You can get a duplicator to put on your.
Duck hunters, y'all need to check out Williamson Outfitters down on the Florida Panhandle this season. They offer some of the best coastal duck hunting and inshore fishing east of the Mississippi, targeting species like redheads, bluebills, buffleheads, and canvasbacks, just to name a few. From the cast and blast packages for those who love to fish and hunt, to adrenaline-pumping layout boat hunts that get you up close and personal, Williamson Outfitters has it all. And when the day's done, unwind in comfort at one of the 2 amazing lodges designed to make you feel right at home after a successful day out on the water. Mention the One Hell of a Life podcast when booking and get 10% off your booking. Spots are filling up fast, so call or text Captain Chris today at 850-251-8650 or visit www.floridaducks.com.
If you want one, and make every one of them just alike. And you can make more than one at a time, but I just make one at a time, and every one of them is a little different. I use I kind of use a pattern off of the one that Mr. Taylor made, because he's the one that I like the most, and his calls are ones that he made now. He made wood calls, and then he started acrylic ones. His acrylic calls now, if you can look on find one of them, they'll be $500 or $600.
Wow, really?
You know, they're valued
Man.
right there. But he's the one that got me started on the Bodock. And like I say,
His Bodock ones are more than that, ain't they?
they may be. I don't know. But he was making the acrylic ones. You know, after he made the Bodock, probably the Bodock would be hard to find.
Yeah.
Right now that he made, because he's been dead now for several years. But all the exotic wood that comes from Africa, there's some ironwood and stuff like that. I made some out of that, and it's hard like that Bodock right there. But this is something most people don't know what a Bodock tree looks like. But if you see those trees, and we could call them hedge apples, big round green things like that, and they're real rough. That's a Bodock tree.
Okay, huh.
And a lot of times they're around these house places that you see out there. There'll be some around there, but that's what they're. But that's how I just got started in it for a hobby, really. And I got to making some of them, and I was selling them about as fast as I could make them. So I thought, but I didn't do it to make a living. I just did it for fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess it's really art, you know, I guess. I mean, you're making a piece of art, kind of. You know, that's a useful piece of art.
Yeah. I've sold them from California to New York.
No way?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So, is it people that, you said a lot of word of mouth, so, like, does anybody just call you up one day, like, hey, I want to order one or something? Like,
yeah, I've had people that I sold one to would call me and say, hey, I really like this call. Have you got any more? And I said, yeah. And I said, you want me to just send you one? I said, well, how you want me to pay for it? I said, well, you just send me a check when you get the call. So we've done that. I've never got hooked one time.
Well, that's good. Well, I'd like to think most hunters are pretty stand-up people for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, you like to think so.
Most hunters are. Most people not trying to beat you. So, but that's kind of how I got started in that deal. But duck hunting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I gotta imagine just being in, everybody I talk to that's duck hunted in Arkansas for more than 15 or 10 years, you know, just talks about how much things have changed. I mean, can you kind of talk about that?
Oh, they have.
I tell you, we've talked about that a lot. And it just done, you know, if you grew up, I'm 76, and I've been through times when we didn't hardly have any ducks, you know. And I remember one year with the duck limit was 1.
Wow.
You know, and you might as well not even go, you know, for 1. But the thing is, when Arkansas was in its heyday, and duck hunting, we had all the rice just about in the United States, down eastern Arkansas. Missouri didn't hardly have any rice. Mississippi didn't have any. Texas wasn't raising any. But now all those states are raising rice. And the thing about it, when I started farming, the combines that we had did a good job. But you would still lose probably 10% of the crop would ride out over the straw, or when the reel had hit it, it would shatter out on the ground. The varieties have changed. They've stopped a lot of that. But these new combines are about starve a duck. They do really good. I mean, unless the rice is down on the ground, they just about get, you know, they get 90.
It's down rice. When wind blows, it gets wet, blows it down flat.
They call it lodging, but it's when it falls down the ground. You just can't get it all. I mean, you may lose,
scrape it off the ground, and
especially
it's
the
a mess.
Old combines. You may lose 25%, and you know the ducks have enough food for all winter.
Yeah.
And another thing, back in the 50s, when all this country around here mostly was in woods, and it flooded in the wintertime, acorns. That's what the ducks. They wasn't in the rice field. They was in the woods eating acorns, and it was just a lot more activity. I think the food sources are not as good as they were back in those days. That's one of the things. The harvest is a lot more efficient out there, and plus I just don't know. I know that all the work that Ducks Unlimited has done and all the other people, I just don't think we have the number of ducks that we had back in those days. We had some ups and down years too. I mean, some times when it was really good and you know, they may not have a good hatch, and then just it's been good and bad. And but if you're older like me and remember those days when, you know, you could go out and just shoot. It was not really hunting. You just went out and found where there's some water and shot ducks. You know, you didn't have to call much. Splash water with your foot a little bit and go on. But that's the biggest change I see. But then I think, and I really believe that the biggest reason is the food source, that they just don't have the food that they had back then. Plus, north of us now, they're, you know, some of the incentives that farmers got, they leave part of the crop in the field up there, and the winters hadn't been as harsh lately. This next week, I may change my mind about that, but that drive, you know, when I was a kid, 7, 8 years old, I remember my grandpa, we'd be out in the yard in the fall, and he said, well, it's fixing to get cold weather. I said, why do you say that? And he said, look up in the sky, and those ducks will be headed south, formation, just as thousands and thousands of them going south.
Oh my
And you don't, I hadn't seen that in years. I had never seen the ducks in V formation like you see these geese sometimes now in formation going, but they would just fly over for hours going south. And that was back in the early 50s, you know, and it was just, things have changed a lot. The lay of the land here, you know, it's all farm ground now. It's not very many trees except along the rivers. And
used to be trees around all the fields too when I was a kid, a lot more of them.
what?
Around the edges of every field, there used to be a lot more trees around them.
Yeah, they cleaned up a lot of the fence rows. We had, when I grew up, we always had a bird dog. We just turned, at the house, we turned the dog out of the pen and start quail hunting. We didn't have to go anywhere. We had like he's talking about, every 40 acres had a fence row around it. And there'd be some quails on that fence row. And, you know, we had good dogs and had a lot of good quail hunting. But now, I saw a covey of quails this fall, first one I've seen in 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
you know, they're just gone. And I think probably some of the chemicals have had a toll on them too. I know back in the 60s they used a lot of cotton poison, killing the boll weevils and the cotton.
Okay.
And the quail would eat those boll weevils, kill them too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That cut down on the number of them then.
Yeah, it seems like quail have been hit really hard from a lot of different things. Yeah. I know in Georgia, one of the big things they talk about is like fire ants. They get into their nests or whatever, and then that's a big problem there.
Yeah.
And then lack of, I'd imagine same thing here, like lack of that ground, that, you know, the natural grasses that were prevalent, you know, there's not as much of that.
Well, we, in this area too, we had a lot more cattle that we did then because the ground wasn't all cleared like it is now. And the cattle seemed like, you know, where you got cattle, most time you got quails too, but it's just the habitat's changed and everything's changed so much. But the duck hunting, when you get on a good one, it makes you want to come back.
Oh my gosh. I remember, so the first time we went and hunted with Kade, we had came out here to hunt public land, and we had always heard that, you know, if you coming out here, I mean, these local guys, they know what they're doing. Like, you know, be respectful and make sure you take your time to scout.
No,
so
they don't.
well,
Some of them
That's-
local guys,
Let's learn.
they think they know what they're doing.
well, compared to us is what I'm saying.
Oh.
They know the WMAs and things like that.
Yeah.
So like we knew going into it we were gonna get our butt kicked and do a lot of scouting and try to learn. Well, we broke it up with a hunt with Kade that I booked online, and which is crazy that things have came so far. To being in his wedding. Like it's just crazy, but. Just from that day, we only shot 2 ducks that day, and he's like, just keep coming back. He's like, you just wait, you just keep coming back, and sure enough, we've been on some amazing hunts, like stuff I thought I'd never see. Like a couple years ago, it was like the last day of season, that 8-man that we shot up there. I mean, that was just go out at 12:30, and then they just all started pouring in there when that ice broke up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all when I got it for so long that we were if the ducks were here, if we have a guide and 5 people with you, if we didn't have the limit by 8:30, it was a long morning, and we quit hunting at 10:30. Didn't matter because we give the ducks a chance to come back in the afternoon, and if you like 5 ducks, you quit 10:30. They come get you, and that's kind of hard to do sometimes when you got paid hunters in there. But
Sure.
they understand. The next day you go back there and do the same thing. That's
Yeah, it's worth it.
yeah. But it don't seem like it works that way now. You have to work your butt off to get the limit now.
Yeah.
Out there, but I've been on some real good hunts, and I've been on some that, and when you talking about guiding and that stuff, I've had guys come and call them and say, look, there's no need to coming. We don't have any ducks. I had one guy that used to come. He had his own jet, and he was in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
It was froze up. I mean, solid. You could walk on ice here. He called and said, well, and he always paid us for 10 guys. When he come, he paid 10. He may not bring but 2.
Oh wow.
But he would pay us for 10. And get there, the motel was closed at Brinkley. He lived at Memphis, but I said, Mr. Frank, the motel's closed. Well, I'll just drive over in the morning. So he brought the boy that owned the bank over at Marion, and the 20, everything was froze. I took him down to the 20-acre field, cold, wind blowing out of the north. I said, look, if they can stand it, I can too. So we got on where y'all sat this morning on that bank. Finally, one old hen duck come by, and they were so cold they couldn't even get their guns off safety. So I killed the duck. And we come back up here to the shop, and he had he was so cold, he had the money still in the wrapper from the bank. And he was trying to get it out there, and he said, I think it was $1,000, and he said, just laid that there. He said, here, you can have that. That made me feel good, but he never complained. He'd pay for that, but he made it just like that morning. He brought him and his buddy out there, and they drank, when they come over here, they drank Yukon Jack, which is a cheap half-pint whiskey thing, and we had him, one of them, he drank 4 bottles of it one morning out there. So when we got done, I got the bottles and tied a string around the lid and hung them up on a nail in there, and I put his name on it. That said that was his limit. Right there. Had 4 of them.
Yeah.
And that was his limit too, I guarantee you. They had a good time, but just like him, they didn't care if they killed a duck or not. He wanted to come. He was in Florida, and he had his own jet, and they flew into Memphis, and he comes over here the next morning. And I've had him on some more hunts like that. We went out to the bayou one time, and we broke ice going out in there to where the thing was running. He had his bottle sitting up on the ice over there, and he said, you know what that is? And I said, no. He said, that's what you call Yukon Jack on the rocks. But they shot a few ducks that morning. They had a good time, but it's all about. And I met a lot of people guiding duck hunting, the nicest people you won't ever see, and friendly, and they had a good time. We had the bunch of, we were guiding out here at Sky Ranch. Sarah Lee Corporation rented the club 30 days for 30 people. And they had a corporate jet, and they'd fly all over the United States picking up hunters and bringing them in. They bring in 15 at a time.
I want to work for that company.
And right there, and you know, I took a guy one morning that he was probably 60 years old. He never shot a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Never, you know, and you get in a pit with him, and he's got a gun, and he didn't know how to load it.
Oh, God.
But he did all right. But you run into a little bit of everything when you guide right there. I had a guy one morning, we were all sitting there, and ducks were right there, and I said, y'all get ready. I had my hands on the lid, fixing to roll it back.
Mm-hmm.
About that time, boom! Everybody just went. This guy sitting down to the other end, he said, my gun went off. I said, the hell it did. I said, you know why it went off? He said, no. I said, because you had your finger on the trigger and pulled the trigger. I said, they don't go off by themselves.
Right.
And so the funny thing about that was this same guy came back in about 2 weeks, and one of the other boys guided him that day. Mm-hmm. So I didn't say nothing. When he came in that day, that me and Mike was the one that was guiding him, I said, that guy let his gun go off this time? What are you talking about? I said, that's the man that let his gun go off. And after he did that, they said, y'all give him a safety talk. You know, I said, everybody have your gun pointed out of the pit, you know, and don't take it off safety till you stand up to shoot. He said, is that him? I said, yeah. He said, well, I gave him that little safety talk. He said, you know, there was some son of a bitch here about 2 weeks ago let his gun go off in the pit. He said that guy was sitting right beside him. He didn't say a word. All the things happen like that, boy.
I think, you know, one of the things I've just, like, we've thought Kade has always done, like, such a great job at, not to hype, you know, not to build his ego up too much, you know, but he's really good at, like, on slow days in particular, just chit-chatting and making people laugh. And, like, it's from hearing you talk, it sounds like that was a big part of it, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta be. You gotta have some comic skills. You got to.
You need to know some jokes.
Yeah, you gotta know some jokes. You gotta have some interesting things to say. It'd be easy even when the duck hunting's good, you still got to have some good stuff to say. You know, I know people that have been on guided hunts other places, not with me. I'm great. But I know some people that have been on guided hunts in other places, and they're like, man, we killed a lot of birds with this guy, but, like, he just wasn't very social, you know. Like, we didn't feel like, you know, they'll sit in the pit and they'll be like, so, what do you do when you're not guiding duck hunts? I'm a fishing guide. And they sit there and just, they don't say a word to him. They just sit there and they're like, oh, okay. And all he does is sit there, call, and say kill him. That's it. You got to have a little bit more social skills.
Yeah. No, I was just telling him to take a couple pictures, but go ahead.
Yeah, but there's a good bunch of guys, and I really enjoy going down to the cafes and stuff now and seeing all the younger guys coming in. There's a big group of, I'm talking about 18 to 25, that age group is coming in and hunting. Mm-hmm. And I know that it costs a buttload to duck hunt now. Yeah. You know,
it does.
All the stuff that you have to put into it. So those guys are committed to it, and I can see it continuing on, because I was afraid, you know, this may be the last generation of people coming in here, but I think it's going to continue. But
what do you think about, because there's a lot of people that you hear people griping about, like, you know, the new generation getting into it, and, you know, they're not doing it the right way, and there's too many people duck hunting. And I mean, what do you think about that when people are, you know, have you heard some of that?
I really hadn't heard too much about anybody griping about being too many people, but
Me. There's too many people that go out there and don't know what they're doing is the problem. They've never handled a gun enough and just stuff that. But they're experts, you know. They watched it on TV. They're experts.
well, some of the people, you know, those young guys that hadn't, their grandpa or their parent hadn't took them out and kind of showed them how to respect other people's property.
Right.
You know, not just, you know, a lot of those guys say, man, that's posted. It's got to be something out there. That's where we're going to go hunting at. You know, and they don't respect the privacy. You know, there's plenty of places in Arkansas to go hunting. That's on public ground, and some good hunting as you can find. But you've got to compete with other people. But
A lot of other people.
it's, you know, and like Biomeda down at Stuttgart gets a big, you know, every time you read something in the books is about that. But they've got so many regulations down there. I've never set foot on the place. But, you know, I've heard them talk about the boat races from the ramp. You know, it's just like starting the Indy 500.
Right.
People getting run into and run over. And you can't, I think they did raise the limits. You can take 25 shells with you. You could take 15, I think. But
You could only take 15.
I think you take, I heard them talk about
Now you don't have to take them out of the box and divide them up. You can take the whole box in with you.
Yeah.
See, I think that's an awesome rule. I mean, to me, it's like if you can't shoot your 6 ducks with 25 shells, it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they get.
And I'm saying that as somebody that's had days where I've shot 3 boxes of shells and like not hit a duck. But you know what I mean? Like,
What about, you know, I forgot where.
just from a pressure standpoint, I think that's a good.
What about, like, when we were talking with Brad Cohen, he was talking about the those audio recording devices that they're putting in the woods. And so they're basically using AI technology to hear the sounds of gunshots going off, and game wardens are using that to hear how many shots people are taking. And they can tell by the decibel level, like, that was all from one spot, you know, or whatever. And they'll hone in on me. I mean, the technology's crazy.
Yeah, no, they're making regulations now based off.
It's in the teens that morning, and maybe you're chasing ducks or geese. But now it's September and it's 85 degrees and you're hunting early teal or geese. As a waterfowler, you need dependable weather protection that will not break the bank. Founded in 1996, Frog Togs is not only the leader in breathable wader technology, but a company you can depend on to keep you warm and dry, head to toe, no matter your hunting environment. Stay bone dry by using discount code ZD315 for 15% off not only your first purchase, like most discount codes, but how about every single purchase you make from now until December 31st, 2024?
Off of hearing those audio recording units, which is
Yeah,
really interesting.
He's kind of talking about that, you know, and everybody's got a cell phone now. You got OnX Hunt, you can punch on there and find out who the landowner is.
Right.
And find out, and you can get permission like that sometimes, you know, but some people just don't want the liability of you hunting on their farm.
Right.
Because just like we all was down there hunting, I had that posted and went down there and here's some boys, they had parked on the side of the highway and shot some geese off the highway, was out there picking them up. And I pulled up out there and I said, y'all know this is posted. Y'all shooting off the highway. I didn't know the boys. But, I said, I can call the game warden and have y'all arrested. He said, well, I fell down out there in one of them ruts and hurt my leg. I said, if you don't get your ass out here, you're gonna be hurting worse than that leg.
Right.
Out there, you know, he's let me know he's gonna sue me because he fell down out there in one of them ruts.
Wow.
But just things like this, you know. But
Now he's got a hurt leg and a gunshot wound.
yeah, but they just
came up missing thereafter.
they just that's the reason a lot of the farmers, you know, and I've had people stop by here at the house and meet ducks and geese down on the road and asked about going hunting. I said, no, I've got that leased out. I can't, but it's a liability, and these boys that I lease to, they've got to furnish me with a liability contract, and because I've had some pretty close calls out there on the farm. I had guy one day, him and his son was hunting out there in the rice field, waded out to the pit. Water was not over your hip boots, but they had waders on. But the older guy fell down, got wet. They went on and got in the pit. And his son was telling me about this the next day. He said his daddy got to shaking uncontrollably, and then his speech was slurred. He couldn't talk good. So,
Oh my gosh.
hypothermia was setting in on him. So he said, "I've got to get him out of here." So he said he got him out of the pit. He said they went about 10 yards. He fell face down in the water, just like that. Boom.
Oh my gosh.
The older guy told me next day they had a house rented here. He was in a sleeping bag, pulled up right in front of the stove. The next day, he said he was still cold. He said that was absolutely the best feeling he'd ever had in his life. He said, I would have drowned in that water that wasn't over my knees, because when I fell down in there head first, he said it was just absolutely, it's just like somebody wrapped you with real warm blankets.
Wow.
He said, I'd have never picked my head up out of that water.
Well, they say they find a lot of those hypothermia people where they strip their clothes off or whatever because they get this like warm feel. Yeah.
He told me, he said, it ain't no doubt. But the boy went and got help. He got him back over to the pit. And they went and got a little flat bottom boat and pulled out there and put him in the boat and pulled him back, got him in the vehicle, and took him to the hospital. Well, they said, well, he's suffering from hypothermia, but he wouldn't stay in the hospital. They brought him back up here, but he didn't get out the rest of the hunt. He was right by the stove right there, but it messed him up. But
oh my gosh.
it's just, little things like that. If he'd have drowned, who would have been liable?
Right, if there wasn't that contract in place,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I hear, Arkansas, there's a lot of people with the leased fields and stuff like that, but in North Dakota and South Dakota where there's a lot more like door knocking, and just like getting permission.
Yeah.
I hear like a lot more of talk of people rubbing farmers the wrong way, and then guess what? Because somebody ruined it, nobody else is ever going to get permission to hunt there because they, left trash or put ruts all on his field or something. It's a shame.
It doesn't take but one group of bad hunters to ruin it for all of them. Just like you're talking about, out there, not tearing the fences down, climbing over them, that kind of stuff. Those folks. I went to Kansas a long time ago, went hunting. We never got turned down but one time, and that lady pheasant hunting, and she said, well, we're trying to get turkeys starting here on our place, and my husband's not here right now, but if he was here, he'd probably let you go, but she said, I can't tell you to go, but they were really nice. The first guy we ever talked to, he said, I farm, I think he said 16 quarter sections, which is 160 acres. He said, and I said, well, it was 4 of us. I said, none of us ever been pheasant hunting. We don't know what to do. And he kind of showed us how to let 2 out here and the other 2 go block and all that stuff. And we killed about 12 pheasants that day, and we were down there in one of his lots cleaning them. And he came down there and he said, well, y'all done okay? I said, yeah. He said, well, I hadn't got enough beds for everybody at the house, but my wife can make some pallets. Y'all come on up there and she'll fix y'all supper. Y'all stay all night. We'd never seen a guy before in our life,
Wow.
He didn't charge us nothing for hunting. But I said, no, we've already got room in Dodge City. And so I told some of them boys with us, I said, can you just think about somebody driving up to 100 and wanting to go duck hunting, and then you take them to your house? I said, no.
That ain't going to
I want
fly.
to comment on that.
Yeah.
They probably never get to see people.
Well, the thing I wanted to comment on about that, is my stepdad, growing up and stuff, he would tell me, he'd say, I would just take off and go to Colorado elk hunting. I go, you just go. I go, and I'm thinking, you don't have no phone, you don't have no, you just got the map you got. And he goes, I go, where would you stay? He goes, I don't know. He goes, with people. And I go, well, he goes, I go out there and tell them I was in town elk hunting. They said, well, come on in. You can have upstairs room. And I'd sit down and have dinner with folks. I said, every time he said, every time I went in the 60s and 70s and stuff, when he used to go out there to Colorado, he said, that's how welcoming people used to be, and it's just our society's changed. It's changed so much. And you can't blame people that, when they own the property, that, hey, we're living in a different world now.
Oh, yeah.
We just do. But, one thing I wanted to pick you guys both of your brains on, I think, when we're talking about duck calls, you hear it over and over again. And if you're being honest with yourself, like somebody like Tristan and I, for example, there's a lot to learn about controlling the duck with your call, and I've heard people call it flight control, or air traffic controlling or whatever. You're reading the duck, calling to the duck. You guys talk a little bit about that. And I mean, I know everybody always says, oh yeah, hit them hard on the corners, and that kind of thing. But there's way more to it than that. You guys kind of talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, when they're going away, you're going to call at them harder. Like if they're losing interest, you call at them harder, a little louder. I don't ever call louder than really louder than what I can speak. Like I never call any louder than that. But when I was saying it earlier, when they're coming towards you, whatever you're blowing, whatever it is at that time, where, it could be whatever you're doing, and that duck's coming towards you, and he continues to come towards you, keep blowing the same thing over and over and over and over and over. It doesn't matter if it takes him 5 minutes. If he's coming, he's coming. Yeah. But just over and over and over and over. If he starts to do something different, then change it. And if he pulls back toward you, then okay, now I'm going to do this. I mean, and you just pull him right in. But I never get super, super loud. Now, if you got like high winds and your ducks are crosswinding you, you might have to blow a little bit louder than you normally would. But, or you're trying to get, and that's the same with geese. I mean, you might blow louder if you're in a really heavy wind. A heavy wind to me is 15 plus mile an hour. So, I mean, you can't ever tell. Everybody has, everybody has a different voice. Same deal with a duck call. Everybody blows a call differently, and that's what kind of makes duck calling unique. You play guitar the same way. A duck call ain't like that. But
I feel like sometimes you're Jimi Hendrix.
The thing about it is, when you got them looking and interested, you want to, if they're liking it, keep it up. But if they're not liking it, you need to try to do every one that comes in is. It's just kind of like that duck call. They're a little different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You what you did to that last group of ducks might not work on the next bunch comes in there. You just got to get at.
You gotta find something that you feel confident with, Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you the craziest thing ever that happened down here actually. So he had an old R&T duck call that was plastic, and I don't remember what it was called. And then I had another one, and I'd left it down here. Or I'd left my good one down here. And I came down here one day, this has been several years ago, but came down here to get my windshield replaced at that place down there in Brinkley. Mm-hmm. And Dee Dee, his wife, Donnie, came and picked me up. I dropped my truck off. She come and picked me up. And I got back, and he said, well, what are you going to do? You going to sit around? I said, no, I'm going to go down there and go duck hunting, I think. And he said, well, all right. Well, I went down there, and there was ducks down there. And I sat right there where we sat this morning on that levee. And I threw out a couple dozen decoys, nothing crazy, like a couple dozen decoys in a spinner. And I got to call with them ducks. And I mean, I thought I sounded good. And this is where I'm going with the duck call thing. I thought I sounded good. I did. It doesn't matter and that's what people don't understand. It doesn't matter what you think. It's what are you showing people in front of you? Wow, this guy called these ducks in right here. if you can blow a duck call and it sounds good, it sounds like a duck, but the ducks aren't, committing, they're not coming in, you're not decoying, then you can't blow no duck. You can't call no duck. You can blow a duck call, but you can't call a duck.
Right.
I like to be a good duck caller, not duck call blower.
Well, that's what I'm saying is such a big difference, and I think it's truly an art. And I think back, anytime a new duck hunter or a new waterfowl hunter gets involved, and I almost want to. This is another good hat idea. Is that a duck?
Well, back to the windshield thing though. I sat down there and I called, and I thought I sounded good, and these ducks said work, leave, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? I mean, I sat there for 2 hours. Same deal. It wasn't a minute went by. About the time one would leave, here come another group. They'd sail in there and they'd work, and I'd work them, they'd leave. And I was like, why are they not finishing? And I just put that other duck call, that cheap old R&T duck call, on that lanyard just to fill up one of them loops, I just slid it on there. And I just remember I kind of sat there and I was like, I'm going to see what they do not blowing a call at them. Well, they'd work, leave. I picked that old call up, mistaking it. I thought I was grabbing my good one, but I pulled it up and I hit about the first 2 notes, and I'm not kidding you, changed everything. The first duck that I killed was a mallard drake, and he was kind of circling out there where that pit was. I hit the first 2 notes. He turned and come straight in. Straight in. I killed him, and I was like, all right, well, that was... and I kind of looked at the call, and it sounded terrible, too. Terrible. And I was like, huh. And I just waited a minute. Well, sure enough, here come another bunch of ducks. I called them, sucked them. Right in. It was one after another. But I ended up killing my limit. And I called one pintail in. It's hard to call them pintails in with a mallard call. Not necessarily hard. It just harder to me. I'm used to, I got that pintail whistle. I whistle them in, and they really like that. But before I knew how to use one, I was calling them in with a mallard call. I called one in. I've never seen a pintail react to a mallard call like that. But he come right in. I killed him. I've got him mounted at my stepdad's place up there. But it just goes to show you, it doesn't matter what you think you sound like. It's what that duck sounds like. It's what you can. You blow a duck call to them ducks and see what they think about it. That's when you know you're a good caller or not.
I'm gonna tell you the whole secret about blowing a duck call to get the ducks to come in. You need to be where the ducks want to land.
That helps a lot too.
That'll make you a real good duck caller. If you're in the hole that they've been coming into, that'll make you.
Yeah, that helps a lot as well.
There's your 50 cents worth, huh?
Yeah. Well, no. if it helps too. I found that out when I was guiding out there, because I didn't have anything to do with it, but they was running a Wilmar spreader with rice in it around the pits every night. And boy, I thought, man, I can really call these ducks. They'd be flying over and just right in there. And we'd shoot to live it a little bit till they got caught doing that. Those federal boys didn't like that.
No,
they got their license suspended for 2 years, and I don't want to fine them, but they couldn't even go to the deer hunting. They had a probation officer, just like a convicted murderer. They couldn't leave 25 miles a hunter unless they called their probation officer and got permission.
My gosh. We I was talking about new people. They always say, you'll find out where I'm going with. I just remember when we all started that, is that a duck? Is that a duck? No, it's a crow. No, that's a crane. No, that's a killie. It's a snipe, whatever it is. But where I'm going with it all is I remember that day that I really started paying attention to a duck. And I was like, that son of a bitch turned its head and looked down at us, you know? And I was like, and I watched Kate hit that call, and well, that head jerk around, you know, and turn. And the head's always the first thing that goes first, I think, is that you see that head cock. And I see it a lot with geese, especially those specks when they're flying over and stuff. Boy, they, you know, but I just recently learned that a duck can see 340 degrees. So 340 degrees. I mean, you think that when they're going away, you got time to move. No, they can still see you, you know, which is pretty amazing, man. So, but I just think it's a process that you go through, and that's something that I've personally just been trying to learn and understand, you know, how they act different, you know, and then by species.
Right.
Know, by species is so different, you know. I mean, if you've hunted enough pintails, you know that they piss you off.
Yeah, they do a lot of times.
It should be a picture of a pintail that says one more turn.
Yeah, a lot of time that pintail, you better shoot him first time around.
And the first pass is usually the closest.
Because the second's going to be a little bit further out there.
Yep. The other thing I was wanting to talk, I got to look at my notes because my brain doesn't work very good anymore. I can't remember anything. You know, we talked a lot about this, and I experienced it more so, I guess, because I've got such deep roots in deer hunting. But you know, when you go take a safety course, I remember, you know, they tell you that, you know, you're going to transition as a hunter. You know, you're going to start off with, I want to kill everything, you know, and then you transition into this person that is like, hey, now it's not so much important about killing, it's getting other people into the sport. It's about conservation. Mm-hmm. It's about all these other things, you know, and I find it that, I don't know if it was the deer hunting that kind of got me there, but I made that transition quicker in waterfowl. And I don't know if it's because it's so communal, if that's what it is, if that's what, you know, we're chasing, that, you know, you get excited about having somebody, even when you don't shoot ducks, just sitting in the pit with them, you know, and just shooting the crap and everything, you know. And I also think it's a lot more welcoming to women. You know, women, I don't blame them if they don't want to get in a deer stand and sit there and freeze their ass off. You know, I mean, it's hard to do by yourself.
But it's a little bit more social, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot more social deal than deer hunting or turkey hunting or anything else, especially turkey hunting. You can't talk at all. Can't move, can't blink.
Well, you know, just like, and I've said it before, but Katie's first hunt here, you know, we shot him good at the 20 that day, and then the second day we went and hunted that other field, and we didn't shoot him very good, and we were worried that she wasn't going to have as much fun, and so we were driving home, and we said, you know, what was your funnest day? She said, the day we didn't shoot very many. I go, really? She goes, yeah, because I got to sit next to Kate. And, you know, and we had this, Tristan got her a pink duck call, and we had a buddy of ours that was making lanyards and made a pink one for her and all this stuff. Yeah. And I said, let's hear you blow that duck call, you know, and she could do a feed call, not too bad for the first time somebody putting their mouth on a call. But
my thing I love about that is she goes, Kate, you know, I think I'm going to guide the hunt today. And Kate takes his lanyard off, and there you go.
I sure did. I said, all right, here
you go.
But Hugh Dean, going back, we were talking, y'all were talking about younger people getting into the sport, you know. That to me, and I've just in the last few years, you know, since we've gotten into the media and social media and all this stuff, you know, I've seen a transition in the waterfowl community that I think is just incredible. And it's a collaborative effort of people that are using social media in the right way to grow the sport, you know. And that is, when we hear about these guys that, you know, out the boat ramp that flatten somebody's tires from out of state, whatever, I want to go up and punch them in the face, because I'm like, look, have you ever heard of the Golden Triangle of Illinois? You know what? I grew up all my life with out-of-state hunters coming in. You know what I mean? But, you know, I just lost track where I was going with that.
Young people.
Yeah, you know, with the younger people, here's the thing. When we first started getting into this and doing all this stuff, there was a lot of negativity towards, like, the barrier to entry for a young person to get into the sport was nearly impossible. You know, it's already hard enough to, man, I remember the first time you're like, what shells do I shoot? You know, how do I shoot a shotgun? I mean, I shot a bow all my life. Never had a gun. never, not one gun all my life. So I didn't even know how to shoot a shotgun, and, those things are so hard to get into the sport, and the fact that, you'll see where I'm going with this, that transition period where I'm going, I think is quicker in the waterfowl world is what helps our sport, because you get somebody like, you get these young guys, Tristan's age or younger or whatever. I'm seeing those people doing that stuff now. They're starting to pay it forward. They're starting to be conservationists. They're starting to get more involved in those types of things, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like it's a faster pace in waterfowl than it is in deer. You know what I mean? So, but there's definitely a huge positive movement. One of our most amazing duck hunts I've ever been on was on public land, and that's when we found the honey hole and had 10 guys and 2 mud boats pull up on us.
Yeah.
And everybody said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to hunt with them. This is what we're going to do." They did their work. They knew just like we did.
Yeah.
So we don't get to pee on this and own it. It's private land. And we figured it out. We went in there and just shot the snot out of them, to the point where the local folks in the community asked us if we were part of the war zone out there, But no, I really love that thing, and that's definitely my passion, at least, as a 52-year-old guy, is that I really want to make sure that we're getting all these young folks, and Tristan would quit trying to distract the podcast. You're in trouble. You're grounded.
I think you was talking about those young folks. I think I've seen it more probably than the last 25 years. The younger folks coming into it. Because it seemed like there was a period there for a while, you had the old duck hunters and a few new hunters, but there wasn't many. The kids, you go to the DU banquets, it's full of kids.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. And I always often wonder how that happened, because do you want coffee that doesn't suck? Get the Duck. Dirty Duck coffee is made specifically for the waterfowl enthusiast. Enjoy flavors like Morning Wood, Dark Dynasty, Cinnamon Teal Snickerdoodle, and First Flight to unlock the flavor that you'll enjoy in the blind for years to come. Our friends at Dirty Duck Coffee Company are now offering all Zero Duck 30 followers a 15% discount when you use code ZeroDuck15 on your next order. Folks of your age, you're about the same age as my father, and y'all part of the baby boom era, and people talk about how the hunting numbers are going down. Well, that's simple math. That you used to have a bunch of people, all right?
Yeah.
Families that had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. Now we're down to 1, 2 kids, for the average household. That in itself was a giant drop in the hunting industry from that. But my point is, how does that happen? But then we have that gap that you're talking about, because darn good and well, I learned from people like that were passionate about passing it on to me, but where did that gap happen? You know what I mean? It just makes you kind of think, like, was there a period of time where hunters just got a little bit too selfish and then just hunted and didn't think too much about sharing the sport, or how important it was? I don't know. Or maybe it's just a lucky fact. I have no idea. But
how about this? What's your favorite? I know there's got to be a million of them. But if you had to pick one, like, what's your favorite?
What's your favorite story of a hunt you two had together?
Oh, there's a ton of those. Good Lord. What's your favorite one?
I was trying to think of that while you was answering.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a bunch of them.
God, we've had some good ones together. I mean, a bunch of them. Oh, there's been so many of them. I can't tell that one. Oh.
You can't tell them about when I get old and I forget to load my gun when the turkey.
No, I can't tell them about that. You're going to have to cut that out.
No one can know about that.
we get commercials.
Oh.
I know I put you on the spot.
I know. That's that's a good question.
I got one I can tell you.
Oh Lord.
And this is when he was. This is his first deer. that he ever killed. We were up in a ladder stand, and he was sitting on the ladder stand for him. Had a muzzle loader. Now he's
25 footer, big one, tall ladder stand.
He's about 7, 8.
7, no 6. Yeah, 7, 6, 6, 6. About to turn 7.
Had a muzzle loader. All right, little doe comes up down here, and I had to hold the leather part of the sling, hold it. Then I had my hand back here behind the stock, because he was down under it like this, and I'm telling him, I said, don't get your eye too close to the scope.
I didn't.
He didn't. So, boom! When the smoke cleared, the little deer was laying there on the ground. He turned around, big crocodile tears running down his cheek. And I said, oh no, he's done got soft-hearted on me. I said, Kade, what in the world's matter with you? He said, that scope hit me right in my nose.
It did.
That was a good one.
It kaboom, and I mean, come back, and I mean, it was. Imagine me just hitting you in the nose, just, you know, it don't take much. It didn't feel good.
You know, we're an hour and 15 minutes into this thing. You know.
Yeah, we got to wrap this thing up.
Yep. Go ahead and wrap it up then.
I got nothing. I'm done. I'm done. I'm on 2 hours sleep, and I'm exhausted. But no, I mean, but really, Hugh Dean, thank you so much for you know, letting us be on your land. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. You know, there's so much stuff that we could sit here and talk all day about, all these dang deer and waterfowl that you've taken in your lifetime and stuff. But we appreciate you letting us be a part of that, and you know, especially being part of, you know, close to Kade and everything, and letting these guys be a part of it too. So thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Next week on Denton Island.
Tony cries about his first deer. The first deer I almost got.
I've been southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on a midnight train. Going too fast now, think I'll slow down, standing in the pouring rain.